Well, hello and welcome to our Vision Sunday recap. This was going to be a live in the sense of you were going to see our live Vision Sunday gathering. The audio turned out to be not too great on that, and we had a lot of glitchiness to it, and just wanted to recap our Vision Sunday with you. I want to tell you in advance, this is going to be kind of the fast recap. And there's obviously not going to be an opportunity for questions, but you can email me, Justin at thebelongcollective.org. Ask your questions. Want to make sure we are just 100% clear on, we want to be 100% transparent and let you know any questions you might have, I want to address. So please email me if you have questions to any of what we're going to go over here. We understand not everyone can stick around for an hour after an hour gathering, or that people had other things going on Sunday. And we really wanted to make something that accurately reflected, being in a dark room on a Sunday morning and trying to record a Zoom from a laptop wasn't really the best. So this is kind of some post-production opportunity for you to really get a visual for what we went through, and also to be able to hit rewind and actually see the slides. The slides didn't show up very good either. So I wanted to make sure this was an opportunity for some quality also to come through, and certainly you can ask your questions and participate in the survey that we're sending out. All right, so Vision Sunday, we had the Belong Collective board up front, just kind of a visual. We had all 4 board members, including myself, Allison Wirt, Nancy Shirley, who's our treasurer, Curtis Smith, and Jeff Miller, and myself. We fielded questions, and also, you just shared some of our thoughts as we've been going through some of the things for Vision Sunday. First thing we did was we gave like a recap of where we've been, just a reminder that, hey, when you really think about where we've been since 2020, since the pandemic kind of really affected our community, pushed us to online gatherings, primarily. Prior to May 2022, we were really just still doing occasional online gatherings and occasional in-person meetings at Hershey Lodge. And that was the nature of our community. But then starting in May 1st, actually, 2022, was our first gathering at Midtown Cinema. This image isn't that image of our gathering at Midtown Cinema on that date. This is a more recent image, but nonetheless, we've been at Midtown Cinema. We have nothing but good things to say about our time at Midtown Cinema. The staff is amazing, the location, the parking. It's a great community. It's a great space. At the same time, one of the things that came up in the meeting and that we are addressing is the reality that it's really meant to come and consume. That's how a movie theater is. You come and you consume a movie. It doesn't really create as much opportunity for conversation, for the ability to create conversation groups like we might have done previously around tables or things like that in other spaces. But ultimately, we are very satisfied with our relationship with Midtown Cinema, and what an amazing opportunity to be there for. We're coming up on in a few months, a year in this space, and to see our kids flourish there as well. We did a financial report. TBC's monthly income is roughly $6,500 and is 100% in the form of donations. These are just some of the highlights from our financial report that we shared. As of February 17th, 2023, we have just under $9,000 in our savings. Other than one employee and rent, we have very little expenses. Jeff even kind of talked on this for a little bit. There was some conversation here, and just the reality that when you look at a typical church budget, and Jeff being someone who's been in church ministry, most of his life, and myself being someone, we really are running a very, pared down version of a church budget, and that's intentional. That's because we want our money to go and flow to what's most important. Our rent is $325 per week per Sunday. We are dipping into our savings at a rate of $900 per month, and this is kind of the critical reality of where we're finding ourselves, because we have 10 months before, in essence, our reserves would be no longer available to be dipped into. And so our financial goal is to increase income or decrease spending to give us roughly, $1,200 more per month than we're currently having, which would be a $300 buffer, or in some way create some buffer there that we're not regularly tapping into our savings. And so as we look into that, that's something that we're actively considering how to address our current financial situation. We are hopeful for growth. growth of people engaged in the Belong Collective's mission and gatherings. We want to see more engagement. We already have seen more engagement. We want to continue to see that. We want to see growth in serving the needs of our community. We've consistently done this. We want to continue to expand that. We are a community that serves, that ultimately is an extension of the church into the community to meet the needs of certainly the most vulnerable. And so we want to continue to do that. We want to grow in that. What does it look like for us to grow in that area? We're hopeful for growth in financial resources of the Belong Collective. Obviously, the last slide expressed a desire to grow the financial resources of the Belong Collective, but we are hopeful that there's some room for growth there. We're hopeful for growth of deeper relationships throughout the Belong Collective community, just meaning like growing to have better relationships, better connections with one another. We feel like there's opportunity for that. So one of the things we've asked is our current model a good structure for growth in these areas? And when we think of these 4 areas, and certainly there's many beyond, and you might have some that pop in mind, and please, like I said, email me. But is our current model a good structure for growth? And just to be clear, when I say model, I'm talking about the ways in which we invest our resources, our time, our energy, our gatherings, all of that. Is the way that we're doing things a way that will engage people? Is the way that we're doing things going to help grow the way we serve our community? Is the way we're doing things going to help us be financially viable? Is the way we're doing things going to help grow deeper relationships? These are some things we're asking, and ultimately part of the survey is that we're asking you these questions too. So here's some things we've considered. Executing a marketing campaign to increase awareness and interest in the Belong Collective. We did recently have a billboard ad donated to us. We haven't utilized that yet, but we will eventually. We also had Kevin with us this Sunday, who was filming for some video for like a commercial for the Belong Collective to be on our website, on our social medias, that we can kind of share with people so that they can get a sense of who we are. Sometimes seeing video of a location, what it's like prior to coming in, it might help people feel comfortable or feel a sense of, oh, I think I could go check that out. It's less maybe scary if it's your first time visiting. Now, obviously, church marketing campaigns are, at least in my estimation, can be a little bit dicey. Being that I previously did church marketing campaigns, I've done that, in multiple churches that I've been in. I think they can go well, and I think they can also kind of have this maybe sleazy feeling to them, or at least I've felt that way sometimes in the past about marketing campaigns I've done. And I just want to say, one of the things we keep hearing over and over again when people find the Belong Collective is that they find the Belong Collective and then they say, man, I wish I never knew a church like this existed right in Central PA. Like, I wish someone would have told me. I wish I would have known. I didn't even know you guys were here. That's something we hear all the time. So we want to ensure that we're connecting with people who maybe have a desire for a community like ours. Like, what would it look like for us to connect with people who have a desire to be in a community like ours? We want to do that. Point number 2 here on things we've considered. We've considered committing to more service projects and continued efforts like the Mulberry Street Bridge cleanup. And when things like that are needed, how do we expand the presence of TBC Helps? TBC Helps is a fund that funds these things that you can give to. It's different from our general giving, which is what I referenced earlier. TBC Helps is a different wing of the budget. And we want to continue to prioritize our ability to help in the community. And so what does it look like for us to maybe expand by expanding service projects or other things? Develop more giving and provide added financial resources for furthering the Belong Collective. Obviously, when I say that, you're like, well, of course, develop more giving. That would be great. But, when we think of like developing more giving, there's a few different ways we can do that. We can certainly have individuals who are already giving potentially give more. We can cultivate new people who attend, and then maybe they decide to support the Belong Collective because they're attached to the mission. We always want people to be giving from a place of passion and connection, never out of obligation. That's not our intent. We don't want to guilt anyone into giving. We believe that when you give because you're passionate about what we're doing, that's when there's just this beautiful reality of the mission and vision being furthered. And so there's also some opportunities for grants that we're researching that we might be able to tap into that would be, pretty awesome if we could, maybe get some grants that would also help cover that gap that we have. So there's some options here for giving that exist. And then number four, probably, I guess, our most discussed, or in some ways discussed, point was to potentially cut back on Sunday morning in-person gatherings and develop a hybrid model, which would include fewer but consistent in-person gatherings, online meetings, small groups, and service project Sundays. This would decrease expenses, while smaller meetings in homes might allow for more participation, storytelling, support, and mutual aid. And so ultimately what we are talking about, and like obviously there's a lot we're considering, so I don't want to say any one of these is happening or is going to happen. We're not necessarily there. We're ultimately in this phase where we're kind of in this preparation phase, and we really want our community's feedback before we would ever start taking action steps in any direction. But with the hybrid model, there's a variety of ways that could look. And one way that, it might look is like, let's say the first and third Sunday of the month are small group Sundays where there's a digital gathering, and also you can go to your small group might have its own curriculum that it's running off of, or your small group might be a small group that gathers together and prays for one another. And it's not really based around a particular sermon or message or anything like that. And then, so that would be like, let's say that's on the first and third Sunday of every month. And then on the second and fourth Sunday of every month, we meet at Midtown Cinema for a gathering. And then let's say if there's a fifth Sunday of the month, let's say that's like an all community, the entire Belong Collective is invited to a service project or a variety of service projects in different areas. That's just one idea. That's not saying that is the idea. It's just saying if you were to give that some structure, one of the things we discussed in our meeting was there's some potential that comes out of that, in that, okay, this frees up some finances. It also gives us these small groups that allow us to have deeper connections that are challenging in our current space. Yet it also challenges us because it's hard to market a community that doesn't meet every Sunday. What does it look like to tell people, hey, on the second and fourth we meet, but if they show up on the third thinking it's church, we're not there. Those are things that would be challenging for a community to not meet every single Sunday, to have to communicate meetings, and it would be a lot more communications. We'd have to communicate more frequently, more regularly, and ensure that people know what's going on. So there's pros and cons to both, but ultimately the value behind that is how we might remedy some of our financial realities, but also how we might organize ourselves in a way that allows for deeper relationships. And we can still also do small groups without going to a hybrid model. We actually have a current small group meeting. Jeff shared a little bit about what they do. And so if you want to learn more about what Jeff Miller's small group is doing, you can reach out to Jeff, and he would love to share with you about kind of some of the success they're seeing and how their small groups supporting one another. So it's not that this is an either or thing. It's just some creativity that we're thinking about, some things, like I said, like it says at the top, things we've considered, and we want you to know we've considered it, not that we've made any action steps toward it. All right. With that said, ultimately, the idea here is we want to turn adversity into opportunity. The Belong Collective has a long history of turning our adversities into opportunities. We've done this through our history. Obviously, we were birthed out of adversity, and the idea that we've even got where we are is a huge thank you to every single person who's ever donated time, money, resources, energy to our cause. And I'm forever thankful for that and indebted for that. And I know many of you take pride in the reality that we really went from zero, literally zero, to building a community, and then enduring a pandemic, a global pandemic, and continuing to find a way to move forward and to thrive. And so we know that we are a community that can turn any amount of adversity or anything that we're up against into an opportunity. And so that might be an opportunity that, challenges us to reconsider how we gather, the way in which we structure our model. It might be something that ultimately we have other options here. So what I want to say is, I don't ever want money to be a reason we would change our vision. So we want to really deeply consider what our vision is for where we want to be, where we want to go. And if that means we need to apply for grants, get grants to make that happen, to go a particular direction, we want to, go all in on whichever direction we feel God calling us to go. So ultimately, the finances are a reality, and there's something that is, in this case, a little bit of adversity is built in there, but there's also a lot of opportunity because it has us thinking about what the future of the Belong Collective is, how best to organize our resources in a way that puts us in a place to where we're able to serve. Our resources aren't so allocated toward other things that we're kind of hamstrung and not able to serve in the way we would like to, and to ultimately further our mission. So obviously we want your perspective. There's as you're watching this video, there has been sent out a link for you to participate in a survey. So I encourage you to participate in that survey. If you did not get that link, please email me again, justin@thebelongcollective.org. I will email you back that survey. We also want to let you know there's another Vision Sunday coming up. So mark your calendar. We're going to regroup March 26th. This is a month out. This is Vision Sunday Part 2. It's the same setup, 11 a.m. Right after our gathering. We will gather for Vision Sunday Part 2. We will bring to you some of the statistics or the comments that we have from the survey, some of the things as we pulled that data together, that stuff together. Hey, what does it look like to do X, Y, or Z? How do we, maybe some more, options as we move forward, and some more discussion. Obviously, this is a one-way conversation right now, so there's not questions, but I wanted to put that up there just to let you know we did have a time of Q&A. Sorry you missed it, and sorry that I can't really splice it in. I could, it's just really bad quality. If you absolutely want to see it, if you're like, I want to know every question that was asked, and I don't care if it's really bad quality, let me know. I can just shoot me a message and I'll send you a really bad quality video and you can check it out. But if you have questions, please, justin@thebelongcollective.org. I will take your questions, and if any of those questions are better suited to be answered by any of our board members, I will forward it on to them and make sure that they can answer those questions. Finally, at the end of our gathering, we didn't have a whole lot of time, but I shared this image, and I shared a little bit about where this image came from. In 2020, we did a outdoor gathering. It was the summer of 2020, so COVID had just we'd just been able to start having outdoor gatherings with the realities of COVID. And we were at Indian Echo Caverns having an outdoor gathering. And I shared this on the same passage that I shared on this morning, the sheep and the goats. And I talked about this source and symptom. And there's this kind of parable that exists where these two people are walking near a river. And one of them sees someone drowning, and they jump in after the person that's drowning. And then the other one sees another person drowning, and they jump in to grab the person that's drowning. And they realize these are children that are drowning, and they realize one after another they just keep coming, and they're just pulling them out of the water, one after the other, pulling them out of the water. And eventually, one of the individuals swims to the shore and starts walking away, and the person is still in the water saving people, and that person who's still in the water saving people starts yelling at the person that's walking away, "You can't leave. We gotta save these people. I need your help." And the person that's walking away says, "I'm going upriver to see who's throwing all these kids in the river." And it's this parable for the source and the symptom, and the reality that sometimes as a church community, we remain downstream and we don't go upstream very often to really address the source. And so I talked about this, like I said, about 3 years ago. And it really has been something I've been ruminating on a lot lately, because February 6th, I was reached out to by an organization asking if I would consider running for public office, to be specific, Dauphin County Commissioner. And I share that date, February 6th, just to say we had all of this, the Vision Sunday stuff, set and worked on and laid out far prior to that phone call. None of the Vision Sunday stuff is influenced by my consideration to run for this. But after much deliberation and conversation and kind of getting the lay of the land and an understanding of what's at stake, I've decided I am going to run for Dauphin County Commissioner. And just to be clear, so much of what the Dauphin County Commissioner does is um, the source. It is the source of budgets in communities. It is the source of so many different things. I could go on and on about the many things that role touches, but ultimately, I believe that I could be an agent of change in that particular seat, and so I'm determined to run for that role. With that being the case, I just want to say I think it's an encouraging opportunity for myself, for Dauphin County, and for the Belong Collective, and I mean that to say I believe there's just a lot of opportunity when we have things come our way that we're not looking for. I was not looking to run for office. This was not something I pursued. It was something that kind of fell in my lap. And in my life and in my experience, when things fall in my lap, it usually tends to be God. And when things are difficult to say yes to, it usually tends to be God opening a door and encouraging me to embrace and be brave and ultimately to consider what's possible. And so, with the support of my family, the support of the board, I've decided to go that direction. I understand that brings about a ton of questions. One most notably is like, are you then leaving the Belong Collective? And assuming I would win, which to be honest, I would be a long shot, but to assume I would win would mean that my role would have to have some changes. I would not be in the leadership role I'm in now, but I would be able to be present. I would be able to preach occasionally. I would be able to maybe go into like a founding status pastor type situation where I could have some minute leadership or help or aid to the community and still be a part of the community. And there could be some potential, upside to that, as we're certainly a community that is all about raising up young leaders, what might be out there. So I don't know, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. I just want to say I'm saying yes to an opportunity that kind of fell in my lap, that after a lot of discernment I see as God encouraging me to walk through a door. I don't think that door means I'm shutting any doors on the Belong Collective. I will remain in my capacity as pastor at the Belong Collective while I campaign for this role. I will remain even in my capacity as a CrossFit coach while I campaign for this role. And I'm just super thankful for the outpouring of support and just the encouragement I've received even after sharing this on this past just a few hours ago. So I just want to say again and emphasize, if there are questions, Justin at thebelongcollective.org. I'm sure I'm bringing up all kinds of questions for you. And I just want to let you know, no questions dumb, no questions too crazy. So please let me know. I just want to go back to this slide and remind you, mark your calendars now for March 26th. Hold that date, 11 to noon, come at 10 to noon, come service at 10 and Vision Sunday at 11 and, hang out for a couple hours, and it should be a good time. Just want to close in a short prayer. I know this was a recap video, but hopefully it's been something that's been helpful for you and encouraging for you. But I want to always draw our attention back to God and to ultimately what God is doing with the vision of the Belong Collective and through the mission of the Belong Collective. So join me in prayer. Good and gracious God, be with the Belong Collective. Continue to impart your vision for us onto our leadership and onto our community. Guide us, show us what opportunities are available to us, what doors we as a community can step through, what ways we can solve some of the problems we're working through, some of the adversity. God, we pray you would open up opportunity and that it would be so obvious the opportunities that exist right in our midst, God. Just bring about an opportunity for us to even imagine, to open up new thoughts for what is possible at the Belong Collective as we consider all these different things that we've mentioned already. God, I pray that you would just draw us together, that this opportunity for us to vision together as a collective, to be the Belong Collective, not led by me, not led by our board, but that ultimately we are all a group together, and we want to learn from one another, and we want to hear everyone. And so I pray you would just impart your wisdom on how best to move forward as we communicate together as a collective. God, we pray you would elevate love in our community, in our lives, and in our actions. In the name of Jesus, amen.